Is Georgia's new election law racist? So the left has been freaking out about this new Georgia election bill. It offers up a lot of reforms to Georgia's election process, and people on the left have been saying that this is an example of voter suppression. You know, the Stacey Abrams grift, if you will. Left-wingers have come out and said it's racist, that Republicans are only putting this bill forward to discourage minorities from voting. Joe Biden himself even came out and called the law Jim Crow on steroids and Jim Crow in the 21st century. Is any of that true? Well, I actually took the time to read through the law and compare what was actually written within the text of the law to what people like Joe Biden and Stacey Abrams have been saying about it. And as it turns out, the law does not discourage minorities from voting. In fact, it creates all sorts of opportunities for people of all colors and all, levels of the economic strata. It gives them all sorts of opportunities to vote that were not there before. So first off, one of the biggest concerns people have had on the left over this new law is that it requires you to have a form of identification to vote by mail, to vote absentee. Now, setting aside the ridiculous notion that if you're African American, somehow you don't know how to get a driver's license, the new law, what it specifically says is that if you want to vote by absentee, if you want to vote by mail, you need to either have a driver's license or a state ID. And state IDs are provided for free by the state of Georgia. And to go even further, to make it even easier, first-time voters, if they don't have one of those forms of identification, they can use a current utility bill, bank statement, government check, paycheck, or other form of government document that has their name and address on it. So that's for first-time voters. So this new bill makes it incredibly easy to vote, and yet it still protects from fraud because, we need to verify that these people are who they say they are. And without any sort of voter ID checks, anyone can just fill out a ballot they find and just send it in. So the second point that people have really been harping on with this new bill is that it bans the handing out of food or water to people waiting in line. People on the left are saying that this is used to discourage people who are waiting in line too long, that, if they're waiting for a while and they start to get thirsty and they need water, that they will stop voting and they'll just go home if they aren't given water. Now, that's just ridiculous on its face, but what the law actually protects against is, something far different. It's what's actually being banned in this provision of the law is line warming. And line warming is a tactic used by partisan organizations where, they have gifts, giveaways, food, water, something they can give to people waiting in line. And they basically go and pressure them and try to convince them to vote a certain way while people are waiting in line to vote. Now, that practice is already illegal in several states. This new Georgia law makes it clear that it is illegal to do it in Georgia. However, the law does not prevent poll workers from handing out water or handing out anything that people in line may need. And it actually calls for there to be self-service water stations, unattended self-service water stations, so people waiting in line can just grab themselves some water. So, another example of a lie on the left being put out about this new law. A third big criticism about the law is that it gives Republicans unbridled oversight over the election process in Georgia. Now, when it comes to who gets to oversee, the election board, there's no problem with having it be elected officials. I personally, in a democracy or a republic, I would much rather have elected officials overseeing the election process than I would unelected bureaucrats, for example. And just because, it gives Republican Republicans control over the state board elections. That doesn't mean it will always be that way, okay? So the law gives the General Assembly control of the state board of elections, and if Georgia citizens don't like that, they can simply vote for more Democrats. These are elected officials. These are people chosen by the people to represent them, and there's nothing wrong with giving them control of the process. And Republicans, there is nothing they're doing here that is limiting opportunity for people to vote. In fact, there are several provisions in this law that create so many more opportunities for people all across the state to vote. And, there are some examples of this. If with precincts that have lines where people are waiting longer than 1 hour, the law states that precinct must reduce its size so that all people that show up to it have time to vote. And, rather than having people come, wait in line, and then not be able to vote, those people can find those extra people that won't be allowed anymore. They can go find another precinct. Also, for precincts with long lines or with lines longer than an hour, those precincts are required to provide additional voting equipment, poll workers, or both. Another provision is to dramatically increase the total hours for voters to vote across the state of Georgia. And they're doing this by allowing 4 days. They're requiring all counties to allow 4 early voting days on the weekend. So 2 Sundays, 2 Saturdays before the election. You have to give voters at least that many early weekend voting days to vote. So in summary, this bill protects the election security in Georgia. It makes the election safer, it protects from fraud, but also it makes it easier for people of all colors, for people of all people across the economic strata. It gives them more opportunities to vote. And that is exactly the sort of change we need right now, especially coming off the 2020 election. I'm Michael Austin, and this is the Western Journal.
Hey guys, did you know we have a podcast called WJ Live?
The Western Journal's mission is to equip readers with the truth, and that's the same mission we have on WJ Live.
You'll hear from writers, editors, and special guests on the most important topics of the day.
You can catch us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern and 2 p.m. Pacific, right here at youtube.com/WJ Live.
While you're there, help us out by subscribing and hitting the bell so you don't miss any future episodes. See you there.